Welcome back. Come one, come all, because we're going to lay back, kick back, have some fun on Kicking with the Rickens, redefining retirement. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull. Gerry Ricken, not able to join us today. He's out of town, but more than capable because the real boss around the office, okay? Heidi Ricken-Provost.
Hey, at least someone knows.
Exactly. Hey, I've learned enough here in about 8 or 9 months of doing the show. Heidi Ricken-Provost here to join us. And, of course, Heidi and the team would love for you to call 314-442-6476. Find them on Facebook, YouTube, or at rickenfinancial.com. And, Heidi, we do these virtually, but we do them on video. And I know that people listening don't see the video. You are in different digs today.
I am. It's our first official recording in our new office space. And fun fact, Doug, I'm actually sitting in my office right now because I couldn't get everything to connect in our new podcast studio. So this is a very special, probably once in a lifetime bit because I'm all the way back in my office and not in our new dedicated studio. But we moved down into Suite 111 of our building, and we have our own studio to record everything in now. So very excited.
I love that. Fresh coats of paint. Does it have the new office smell?
That it does. And thanks to my clumsiness, it has a couple little kinks in the paint too, because this weekend I was moving something in here and I accidentally nicked the wall. And I'm like, well, someone had to put the first scratch there, so it may as well be
exactly.
me.
Got to break it in. Better you than a client too. So for those that are used to visiting the Rickens, or maybe you're like, oh, wait, are they still? No, they moved offices. You've seen that on their Facebook page, but it's just moving downstairs. Right? It's not a big deal. And the podcast studio, from what I remember you and Gerry describing, is right as people walk in. There's a room with a glass pane in it. You can look right in. So.
Oh, yeah. You'll be able to actually watch us in real time if you ever want to come by when we're recording. But yeah, we're a lot easier to get to and to find now. Just on the first floor, you enter that back entrance of our building, and we're the first office on the left. So
I love it. Well, congratulations.
Don't have to go all the way down the steps, but I will tell you, if you're here to see me, you need to time the bathroom now because we're not next door anymore.
Okay. Now that's a big deal. So if you want to have that first meeting or know someone that does, remember it's 314-442-6476 or go to rickenfinancial.com and there's a contact button there. All right. Now, Heidi, you got the story.
Yeah, we moved into this new space. We got some stuff we're moving in right now, too, because we're a family business, okay? So I work with my dad, obviously. And if you've ever listened to our show, you know that I'm obsessed with my grandpa, Willy. Rest in peace, Yes. My dad's dad. He was my idol in life. And I could probably record just hundreds of hours of Grandpa Willy stories, but I'm not quite sure they'd be retirement appropriate or, appropriate for these airwaves. But, there's just a couple things that stick with you. And one thing I'm very excited to bring into, we have a little bit of an event space in our new space here. And one thing I'm excited to put in it is a display from my grandpa and my great-grandpa, to showcase our heritage a little bit. And it may or may not be a couple pieces of the original copper still from my great-grandpa's bootlegging days. So my question for you today, if you're tuning in, is what on earth does my great-grandpa Henry Ricken, what does his bootlegging have to do with the IRS? $1 million question, okay?
Oh, that's fantastic.
So many, many moons ago, my grandparents almost lost the farm and they could barely make payments. They came over from Germany. They were doing everything they could to provide for the family. And it wasn't enough. So great grandpa Henry decided, I know how to make some damn good moonshine. May as well fire up the copper still. And he provided for quite a few people. And this was during Prohibition as well. So it was equally illegal. And, what do he and the IRS have to do with each other? Well, they have one important connection, and his name is Mr. Al Capone.
Oh, gosh, this is getting better.
I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Al Capone, mobster, did lots of shady things. But the only thing that stuck and he got caught with was his tax evasion. So the IRS is the only government agency that was strong enough to take down Mr. Al Capone, which is crazy because the FBI tried to take down my great-grandpa's operation because they found out that in Garden Plain, Kansas, where he was from, he was supplying Mr. Al Capone and his people with his moonshine. So his people drove from Chicago to him every 2 weeks to get another, it wasn't a truck back then. It was probably some nice Cadillac or something, but they'd fill up the whole Cadillac and hand him wads of cash. And
now, were Al Capone's people selling moonshine, or was this just for them to party?
This was just for themselves. They were just, he provided it for them so that, they had something to consume, I guess. And the first time they did this, they just handed him a wad of cash. The second time they counted it out, and he took a $20 bill and he handed it back to them, and he said, "You paid me $20 too much last week." And they said, "We know, Henry, that was your test."
What?
So, what's the point of talking about great-grandpa? First of all, talk about some ingenuity. You're not going to make your farm payments. Oh, well, we got grain here. May as well put it to work. And for those inquiring minds, there may or may not be a still somewhere in the world that still has the recipe that occasionally every 10 years or so gets used to keep it alive.
May or may not.
May or may not. But we're going to talk in hypotheticals there. But, he did a really great job of evading taxes back in the day, because not only what he was doing was illegal because he was creating booze during Prohibition and selling it, but he didn't capture any taxes. So what's my point of talking about this? I don't know if you've ever listened to me speak before, but I love to talk taxes. And I figured, why not start with a fun story before we dive in about another episode that relates to taxes?
Yes. And to be clear, hey, especially you, Morgan, listening. All right, to be clear, we're not making an episode about evading taxes, but we are making an episode about no. What we do want to talk about is not freaking out if you get a letter from the IRS that is asking for a closer examination of said taxes, because there are orderly ways to handle that.
And why it's important to follow the rules so that you don't end up spending the rest of your life in the clinker, or have a sting operation come after you from the IRS, because that is what we try to avoid always. You never want to push the lines. You never want the IRS coming after you. But it can be really nerve-wracking, because this time of year, you might receive a letter. And actually, after any time of year, you could receive a letter from the IRS. Step number 1, if the IRS is calling you and you've never received a letter in your life, and you log on to irs.gov and you don't see any notices, I'm here to tell you that is not the IRS calling you. That is a scammer trying to get data out of you. If you ever do get a call, there is potential that at one point in time in your life, you could get a call from the IRS, by the way, but you would be aware of the fact that they would be reaching out to you from something else. If you ever do get a call from the IRS, the appropriate response is, I'm going to go ahead and hang up and call you back. And then you call the legitimate IRS 800 number, and you never, ever, ever give out your data on those phone calls. So if someone's asking you for your social security number or anything like that, if they made the call to you, never give them the data. If you are calling the IRS, that's the only time it's okay to give your data out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great rule of thumb, because so many people get messed over by that kind of thing. And also, just a related thing, the IRS is either going to mail you a letter or give you a call you're expecting. Mm-hmm. You should not be expecting an email or a text or
never.
Facebook or WhatsApp message or something from them.
Hey, that's a great point, Doug. Thanks for bringing that in here, because you are so right. People have gotten incredibly creative in scamming us nowadays. And you will never receive a Facebook message, an Instagram message, a TikTok, an email, a WhatsApp, any form of communication that is not a physical letter with the barcode, with the data sent to your mailbox, and then potentially a phone call to follow up on that if you've been in communication with them back and forth.
Yeah.
But yes, they're old school. They start with that letter. And
start with a letter.
If you're ever curious if some reach out is legitimate or not, please just pick up the phone and call me, or go to rickenfinancial.com and say, hey, can I drop by with this thing and we can look at it together, or, whatever the case may be. I'm never going to be offended by taking a couple minutes of my time to make sure you're safe. That's what we're here for. At the end of the day, you never really know what's legitimate, and we're here to make sure you don't get taken advantage of, because unfortunately we have seen far too many people have their identities completely stolen and their accounts ripped away from them because they gave the wrong data to the wrong person, or the right data to the wrong person, rather.
So then let's say now, and this will really kind of be the stretch run here. If someone has a legitimate ping, if you will, for the IRS, so a letter or a phone call that you're expecting, you've checked the notices on irs.gov, you see that you're supposed to be getting one. Of course, that's never happened to me. I would freak out, Heidi. I'd be like, whoa, hold on. Yeah, am I getting audited? But it doesn't always necessarily mean that. So sort of like the old Homeland Security threat alert things, like it's not always red on this, right?
Oh, absolutely not at all. So before anyone freaks out, okay, you check the mailbox or you get your informed delivery and you see there's a letter coming in from the IRS. I understand the heart palpitations because, listen, I just got one 2 weeks ago and I was like, why am I getting a letter? I opened it up and all it said was someone using this social security number, and it didn't say my number, thank God, but someone using this social security number accessed irs.gov on April 15th. Was it you? Well, yeah, it was me, because that's when I went out and I paid my taxes. So you never really know what the letter is going to be about. There's no reason to freak out, but that is a very benign one. There are some letters that automatically sent to you. So you file your income tax return. Everything's great. You know, you provide all the data to the correct person. They get it done and they send it off. Well, say your bank forgets to issue you an interest form and you had $100 of interest last year. Stuff like that can happen sometimes. And then you'll get a letter in the mail from the IRS that says, our records show that your tax return was incomplete, or, you know, was calculated incorrectly. First of all, this is not an audit, okay? You would know if you're being audited by the IRS. You would be well aware of it, and you have to provide lots and lots of data for an audit. So in this case, that letter would simply be a notice, and here's how it works. When we file an income tax return for a client, or you file your own and you send it on off to the IRS, it enters on one end. And then, you know, those W-2s, 1099s, all those forms that are sent to you in the mail that you prepare your tax return with, that also gets filed on another end of the spectrum with the IRS. And what happens is it takes a little bit of time, so that's why it's not instantaneous. But those two systems connect in the middle at some point in time, and it's two computer systems.
Okay.
And if they don't match up, you'll just automatically get a letter that's actually a human being hasn't touched it or anything. A computer just automatically sends you a letter that says, hey, these two don't add up. It looks like you're missing something. And it'll even tell you, you know, your interest was $20 different, or whatever the case may be. So when you get one of those letters, do not freak out. Sometimes, believe it or not, the system on this side that sends those tax forms in for you, it could be wrong. So your tax return itself might be correct. So don't just like pay the money and call it a day. Whoever you are working with on your taxes, bring it into them. They'll take a look at it. So if I've done your income tax return, bring it on into our office. We'll take a look at it. We'll help you get down to the bottom of it and have an answer for them. But at the end of the day, you are not being audited. This is not something like life-changing. You're not going to prison. You're not even on their radar, because a human being still has not even looked at this. So like you said earlier, this is not some red alert, okay? You're not even on their radar. It's just simply a letter that went out that said, hey, looks like these two don't add up. You know, can you give us an answer? Or just pay if there's a difference to pay. Or the fun ones. Hey, these two don't add up because you forgot to, you know, put one of your deductions in here, or you made an estimated payment last year. You forgot to tell your tax preparer. So here's some money from us. That's also legitimate. And that goes on both sides, though. If you get one of those letters with a check in it, you probably also need to come check it out with us and make sure it is legit and that you can, no matter what, you will cash it, but that you wouldn't have to pay it back. Because at any point in time, you're getting a check from the IRS or whatever state you're in. Cash those checks, and then you can always figure it out on the back end, because they're not going to let you just, you know, send the check back to them. You would have to cut a physical check back to them in the end, too.
Right. Well, that's great to know. So just like we talk about market volatility, or we talk about with, oh, my gosh, do I have enough saved for retirement? Here's another one. Don't automatically go into 10 out of 10 freak out mode just because you've received a communication from the IRS. No, step number one, make sure it's legitimate. And you could do that by checking with the person that helped prepare your taxes or the organization or even rickenfinancial.com, get an appointment or put in a question there. And then step number 2 is once you find if it's legitimate, make sure if it's not just a miscommunication or just an error in the system, don't just pay the money. I want to just pay the money. Okay, man, just get off my back. Here's $20. Okay, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to do time like Al Capone did. Okay, but the bottom line is you don't just automatically go into 10 out of 10 settle mode or 10 out of 10 freak out mode.
Oh, absolutely.
Do it with sense and with objectivity there. So I think that's a big thing to point out, Heidi, and certainly it's something that I think would make for great discussion around the moonshine still every 10 years.
I know, right? So every once in a while, I don't know where the finished product is right now, but if anyone ever wants to test it out, just give me a buzz. I'd be happy to bring it at the end of our meeting when everyone is in a safe and secure location and you have an Uber to get home.
That's correct.
Because I'm not talking about like some apple pie flavored whatever. This is rot gut. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, not for the faint of heart. Okay. Back in old Germany, it was not for the faint of heart. But yes,
Schnapps. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Or as my great-grandpa would say, a little schlug. You want to take a little schlug?
Schlug. Yeah, well, I'm a big NASCAR fan. That sport was founded on the back of that kind of thing. I'm very familiar, yes.
If you ever really do get audited, by the way, and you need a little schlug, reach out. We're here to help in both regards. If you need help, being represented to the IRS, or if you just need some moral support. But at the end of the day, if you're trying your best and you're honest, that's all that matters. And that's all that the IRS is going to care about. If you are attempting to, screw them out of some money, you're the one that's going to get burned in the end. But if you're doing your best, that's all they care about. And they just want to see that you're trying to share the data with them. And in the end, they can work out a lot of different stuff with you if you're just being an honest human being from day one. So, we're not going to try to evade the IRS or anything like that. And we don't actually make the moonshine and sell it or anything like that anymore, because everything we do is by the book over here at Ricken Financial. We need to make sure we're paying our fair share in our taxes.
And that's a true way to kick with the Rickens right there.
Oh, yeah.
To get kicked with the Rickens, is a schlug. So and that's the thing is, if you've done things above board, if you are just trying to be an honest tax-paying citizen, your first, of course, we all freak out. The IRS, it's like the principal coming by. Or in the professional world, HR is giving you a call. Whatever it is, it's sort of that same kind of feeling. If you've done things above the book, you probably don't have a reason to worry. I want to say before we go, the time that I was most terrified when I was pulled over by a police officer is a time where I'm like, okay, I wasn't speeding. I don't know why in the world did this guy turn on the lights and pull me over? And it's because one of my tag lights was out. Now, and I was driving an 1981 Chevy Malibu at the time. So those cars come up stolen, or did 20 years ago, would come up stolen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, we're going to go ahead and pull this one over. But the first thing he says to the window is, you look nervous. Why are you nervous? Trying to get me to admit something maybe. I was nervous because I had nothing wrong. I was like, I stopped at the light. I made a right turn on red, and it literally was just a small thing. So you never know with this stuff. But if you don't need to immediately go into terror just because if you really think you've done it right. It could just be one wrong form, get it settled up, pay the $20, or it could be you did nothing wrong. So if you want to have some more enlightenment on that, dial 314-442-6476 or go to rickenfinancial.com. And like I said before, check out the Facebook page. Go to rickenfinancial.com too. Under the events page, there's a volunteer event at the Sibs camp coming up that, of course, you all volunteer there, Heidi, in honor of your sister. I mean, all sorts of great things.
Yeah, it's awesome. We have some of our client advisory board members joining us this year to kick off our camp and, help bring the carnival to the kids when they're welcomed to camp this summer. So we're super excited.
I'm all about that, and I look forward to talking about it more. Well, Heidi, thanks for lending your time this morning, busy in the office unpacking boxes and getting caught up with clients before they go on vacation. So we appreciate you making time to enlighten us here on the podcast.
Hey, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I hope to see everyone in our new digs very soon, hopefully with a little bit on the walls so that it feels more like home.
That's correct. I'm looking forward to some more tchotchkes and pictures of the family.
Oh, yeah. You know me. I'm the maximalist. We got to get everything up on the walls and ready to go.
We share that in common there. And be sure to check out Heidi's awesome jewelry. She's got the kicking necklace there for kicking with the Rickens on. So you got to be sure to check that out. So thanks, Heidi, for her time. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Benefield, for getting this put up and shot out into cyberspace. And of course, for Gerry, all of his time he kicks in behind the scenes. He'll be back with us soon. And we thank all of you for listening. We'll have another episode coming your way soon here on Kicking with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement. We need to say, Heidi, we got to tell people the right thing every time, every day.
It's a holiday.
And life is short.
Laugh hard.
Tune in, folks, whether it's about taxes or anything else in your retirement and financial portfolios. And we'll have Kicking with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement, another show coming up soon. Take care.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.